Welcome to the Fantasy Champions Fantasy Football Podcast. Here's your host, Morgan Colby and Rick Lemon.
What's poppin', Fantasy Champs? My name's Morgan Colby. I got Rick Lemon with me. As always, was poppin' Rick.
What's up?
Oh, boy. We just recorded this entire show.
Yep.
And, just for the kicks and giggles of it. This is what it sounded like for the entire recording.
Uh-oh.
So there you go. That was our dreams.
Justin Fields in the QB1.
Justin Fields, greatest quarterback of all time.
That's basically the recap. We don't even need to.
Anyway, so here we go again. Week 12. Thanksgiving week is
Morgan's
here.
favorite holiday.
My favorite holiday. He's got it
in my top three. Maybe top two.
Okay? Hold on a second. You said in your top three. What's the three?
So I'm a big 4th of July guy, but I think Thanksgiving beats 4th of July, I will say. But Christmas is number one for me.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. Free stuff?
Yeah.
Or giving free stuff, if that's what you're into.
I just like the whole... See, like, Thanksgiving is, like, really just a day, while Christmas feels
I feel like for Thanksgiving,
a season,
there is no build-up. It just happens.
Right, exactly. It's just a random Thursday, and it's like, oh, it's Thanksgiving.
And then, like Christmas starts in October. Okay, so it's like I've watched 6 Christmas movies already. Probably more than that with my wife putting the Hallmark channel on. Yeah, we've been in Christmas for a while. So anyway, but Week 11 is in the books. We're going to talk about Week 11 a little bit on this show, and then we're going to give you our Week 12 waiver wire ads, a quick itinerary for later in the week. We have a big, bulking Thursday show for you, or Wednesday. It comes out on Wednesday. But to go through the 3 games on Thanksgiving and give you a Thanksgiving game preview and all that good stuff. And then we'll have our normal starts and sits and trade targets later in the week. So be sure to be prepared to hear those. But for Week 12, or for this show, Week 12 waiver wire recap. Let's get to it.
Let's do it.
Before we do, check out our website, fantasychampions.com. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or any other podcasting platforms, please leave a review or share this podcast with your friends. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe, click the bell for notifications, like, and comment down below. This segment's no longer called Real or Fake. It's just a weekly recap at this point.
Yeah, at this point.
We just talk about everyone because we like to talk about everyone. So we'll start with the quarterback on the week, the quarterback position on the weekly recap. And we'll start with none other than Joey Burrow.
Yep. Joe Burr.
Did you see the picture of him online with his new grill?
No,
diamond teeth now. Dude,
he's a stud, man. I sat him this week for Fields, and I regretted it instantly. Even though Fields was great too, it really wasn't a huge difference, but. Man, Burrow is
probably
just
a better start, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it feels good to have Burrow in a dynasty team, that's for sure.
Oh my God, yeah. I have in multiple dynasty leagues, and it makes me sweaty.
And this offseason I wasn't really fully out on Burrow, but I was like, he's not a mobile quarterback. There's guys that are going around him that are mobile quarterbacks that I'd rather have. Right. And I kind of regret that because he's kind of he's not at the same level of Mahomes in terms of he's pocket passer, but he's right behind him.
He's funny thing is Mahomes is a pocket passer.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to clarify,
Herbert's a pocket
classify
passer.
Him that, I guess. Yeah, Herbert's more of a pocket passer.
But Joe Burrow does. The big thing is that it's all like for pocket passing quarterbacks or quarterbacks of his sort. It takes a lot of touchdowns. And sometimes a lot of yards to put up big performances. Whereas Justin Fields can rush for 60 yards in the first half and already have a 20 fantasy point week, easily. So
right.
It's definitely smarter to start, rushing quarterbacks. But Joe Burrow, he's definitely one of the top 8 to 10 quarterbacks in fantasy football. And that's going to be...
He's QB5 right now.
That's going to be that way for 12 to 15 years, my friends.
Yeah.
So we got Burrow for a long ride, but he had 28 this week, QB1. Mahomes, 27. I don't hate him anymore. I still hate Travis Kelce. You can't stop me from hating Travis Kelce.
Yeah. I was rooting for the Chargers, so I was kind of
hating on.
It's hard, man. The Chiefs are just they're the next Patriots. They're just going to be in the AFC Championship game every year. This is just
no. I mean, they're going to be in the AFC Championship every year, I think, unless somebody gets hurt.
Yeah.
Well, I'm curious to see, like, obviously we see that the Chiefs are playing, they're playing fine without Tyreek Hill. But when they don't have Kelce anymore, what happens?
Yeah, that will be interesting. I mean, that's going to hurt. But if they don't have Kelce, they're probably going to invest in an elite weapon, I would think.
Yeah.
People have talked about Tua. People have talked about Jalen Hurts for potentially MVP.
It's Patrick Mahomes.
I don't think it's even close right now. I think Mahomes is by far
what
the
he's
MVP
doing without the talent around him is crazy.
I mean, he's already at 28 touchdowns.
That's nuts.
He might have
another 50.
I don't think he's going to get 50, but he's going to get like 40 something.
Yeah, definitely. Danny Dimes having 26 fantasy points. We got that right.
Yeah, start of the week
at quarterback. Well, I mean, we don't go
waiver wire of the week.
Yeah.
Stream of the week.
I mean, we did tell you to start him on the start show, though.
It's true. Yeah, he was start of the week.
Yeah, he was start of the week. But so he has 26. Jacoby Brissett 25. Jacoby Brissett is streamable, I think.
But Watson comes back. He's got one game left.
He's got one game left, so that's it for Jacoby Brissett. Jalen Hurts had 24. Justin Fields had 23. He did get hurt in the game, so keep an eye on the injury report. Dalton, 22. It sounds like he's going to be the starter.
It's the end of Winston.
Here until the rest of the season. Winston's kind of dead in the water unless Andy Dalton gives him the job back. I mean, Andy Dalton threw 3 picks in the first half in a night game, and they still didn't put Jameis Winston back in.
Yeah, that was the sign that he was going to be.
I don't know why. I don't really understand.
Well, I mean, Dalton, bro, this week hit 21 of 25, 263.
Are the Saints winning a Super Bowl this year?
Definitely not.
So what the hell are they doing starting?
Are they even making the playoffs this year?
No. Like, if you're tanking, like, pick a worse
Well, that's the thing. They're not tanking because
exactly. So what the
they
heck
don't have their.
What are we doing?
They don't have their first round pick, so they're gonna try to be as mediocre as possible.
Oh my god. Well, that makes sense. Like, if you want to,
that'd be the only thing I could see.
All right. Anyway, he is streamable depending on matchup. If it's super easy and you have no options, and there's a bye week, Andy Dalton might be okay. But bye weeks end, I think, in week 14, right? Yeah. After week 14, they're over. Dak Prescott at 20, so he's back and better than ever. Derek Carr, 20 fantasy points, so he has a decent week. Ryan Tannehill has 20. So finally, these quarterbacks putting up fantasy points. Herbert, 19. Aaron Rodgers, 19.
Even though I said this on the first time we recorded this, but for some reason, Herbert on my screen is higher than all the guys you just said because of the catch. He has 21, but
wild.
And it's still a 4-point touchdown league. It's just the one catch.
Interesting. I don't know why Fantasy Pros does not list it when I look at.
It's weird.
But, Lamar Jackson also an honorable mention. Not really a bust game, but he is continually he's been a low end QB1 for a lot of weeks, and the only reason why he's as high as he is in the totals on the season is because of his 2 45-point games.
Yeah, but he's fallen. He's QB6 now on the year in points.
Yeah, I mean that's where he usually finishes at this point in his career, which is shocking. Like, I feel like there comes a time in the season where Lamar just stops running for whatever reason.
Well, his passing numbers have been really bad, I think, since then, too. He's only thrown for over 200 yards twice since week 3. Sorry, 3 times now because he had 209. But
I was asked this question on Sunday because of my Mac Jones trutherness, but Lamar's a free agent this offseason.
Yeah.
And would you take him?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, 1,000%. Not even.
Yeah.
He dumped Mac Jones on the side of the street.
I think he's staying with Baltimore, though. They're gonna find a way to keep
him. Okay, so then you have Josh Allen, who had 12 points, big bust this week. He's been struggling. 197, 1 touchdown, no rushing opportunity in the game. So, I mean, I think for Allen and his fantasy production, obviously he needs that rushing. If the rushing is not there for him, he can still put up great fantasy numbers similar to like Joe Burrow's 28 with passing, but it definitely takes him out of that like QB1, QB2, QB3 conversation. If he adds the rushing, that's what makes him the QB1 in all of fantasy football on a year-to-year basis. So I think he'll get back to the rushing. There's no reason to think why.
But even his passing numbers have been down.
Yeah, the last 3 weeks. What is he? 2 touchdowns, 4 interceptions?
Last 4 weeks. You're going to love this.
Oh, yeah. Love it.
4 touchdowns.
Yep.
And 6 interceptions last 4 weeks.
He always hits a stretch in the middle of the season.
Yeah.
Let's just hope it's...
But he plays Detroit this week on Thanksgiving, and we'll talk about that in our next show. But I have a feeling this might be the week where Allen
What if the Lions
goes
win?
back.
That would be wonderful.
Well, then, hey, 4-game win streak.
3-game.
Lions to the Super Bowl. No, well, if they win, it's 4-game win streak.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God. If they beat the Bills and they win 4 straight games, Lions to the Super Bowl, yeah. Run the table. Do it.
Run the table.
Wouldn't that be hilarious?
It kind of would.
Like the Lions win the Super Bowl, and it's the year after the Matt Stafford trade and Goff.
Oh, yeah. And they get the first overall pick because the Rams end up losing out, and the Lions win out.
Hilarious, dude.
And then we enter the era of the Detroit Lions.
Rick got some news that said that Davis Mills could be benched soon. So
yeah,
sucks
I don't know if
fantasy,
he's
man.
going to be.
Dynasty
but,
League, Superflex Dynasty Leagues, we have Davis Mills as your second quarterback. You might get fricked.
Yeah, you should have probably been aware of that going into the season that might happen. Because even if he doesn't get fricked and he plays out this year, they're going to have a top 3 pick and they're probably going to take a quarterback. So Davis Mills, I don't think is the guy. Yep,
agreed. Let's move to the running back position. We have Tony Pollard as the RB1. He looks so much better than Zeke. I just can't.
Yep.
I don't know why they continue to roll Zeke out there on a week-to-week basis and hope that he's good.
Zeke at this point, Pollard's just...
Zeke has not been bad. Like, he's been relatively good. Like, he's not horrible when he's on the field for fantasy.
Yeah.
In real life, he blows. But he just hasn't looked good for the actual, like, Cowboys.
I mean, he's fine. Even in real life, I think he's fine. He's just not... He's not getting any explosive plays. Like,
it's one of those things where you watch one player and then you watch another player and you're like, okay, that guy is definitely like...
Yeah. And we've been saying Pollard... I mean, how long have we been saying Pollard looks like the better player? Since like week 3?
Yeah.
Pretty much the whole year.
I think last year when Pollard was playing and he was playing better, I even said in the offseason, I'm like, Zeke is obviously the better guy. But at this point, after seeing this season now, it's kind of like hit a point where it's like, all right, Pollard's the better guy. Like, I didn't want to say it, and I didn't think he was the future for them, but his legs are fresher. There's so much work on Zeke's legs that at this point, it's just...
I don't even know if Pollard's necessarily the future, though, because he's 25.
That's what I'm saying. Like, he's not the future. And that's
maybe
why
future for, like, next year.
Yeah, for, like, next year, next 2 seasons. But it's clear that Pollard doesn't have a whole hell of a lot of, like, tread on his tires, whereas... Zeke doesn't have.
Well, that's
tires.
True, and sometimes
Zeke
running backs
doesn't
will
have
be able
tires anymore. He's just got wheels.
Right.
He's got stone wheels.
Running backs will be able to last longer because of that.
Like Cordero Patterson.
Right, Patterson. I mean, Eckler is 27, and he looks like he's like 24, 25.
Yeah, right.
Because he was backup for Melvin Gordon for a couple years. But a guy like Zeke, who's been the guy since he was 21, 6 straight years, like. He's had so much on his legs, and I'm surprised that at this point he's still kind of the guy.
Samaje Perine has 30. He's the RB2 on the week, kind of stealing the joy from Joe Mixon owners as Joe Mixon goes out of the game and gets hurt. And now you have to see Perine have a really good week and be like, what could have been.
Right.
So keep an eye on Joe Mixon's injury status, but if he's out for an extended amount of time, we'll talk about Samaje Perine later, but he should be a decent handcuff opportunity.
Oh, yeah. I think if Mixon is out, I would probably put Perine as like a top 20 running back. So
yeah,
RB2.
I'd say top 25. I'll be safe.
Yeah, that's fair.
Najee Harris with 27 points. Derrick Henry had 25. Najee Harris finally having a good game on the season.
We were a week early on the sell.
So now you can sell him. But Derrick Henry, RB1 on the season, 25 fantasy points. He's been really, really good. Rick, Rage Against the Machine.
At some point.
Jamal Williams, 24 fantasy points.
Yeah, I ranted about it on the first time we recorded this, so I don't know if I...
He let it out. But
yeah,
Swift,
I already let it out.
Swift ended up as the RB17 on the week with 12 fantasy points, so he wasn't bad. And honestly, if the touchdown opportunity went to Swift in the game, like we would have a completely different conversation. Like Swift is back, all of that stuff. And like even me, like I don't know if I would have said Swift is back because he didn't get the opportunity that would make me think like, okay, Swift is back. But yeah, it seems like it's not that they want to give Jamal Williams the ball more than they want to give Swift the ball. It's just at this point, like they don't want Swift to get hurt, so they're trying to give, Jamal Williams, who I guess you would say is their bruiser, the ball.
Yeah. And I knew, I won't talk about this too much, but we knew going into the year that Jamal Williams would have a role in the running game, but he's kind of established himself as feels like the starter almost. Like he gets the most work in that backfield, and it's kind of gross. I don't know if they're going to go back to Swift or it's going to be a committee or whatever. Yeah, right. Though I think the worst part about this, and I didn't even say this in my first rant, is Justin Jackson actually had the same amount of carries or more. Yeah. Sorry, he had more carries than DeAndre Swift. Right. So it's a 3-headed backfield, at least this week.
Yeah.
So it's very, very gross. But they love to use, they're like the Cowboys. They love to use the running back. So it's like, it's gross, but they're both putting up fantasy numbers.
I will continue to never understand that about the new NFL. And like it is so much harder as a football. And I know there's not a lot of players that have a skill set that allows them to be a good pass catching running back and a good like rush running back. You know what I mean? Like it's very hard to find, like there's only a few guys in the NFL that can do it. I would say like 7 to 9 running backs who have that capability. And so they're hard to find. But at the same time, it's like if you can develop or find a running back that has multiple skill sets, you become a less predictable offense because that guy runs out there. You don't know if they're going to run it or pass it. Whereas if you have a pass-catching running back, as soon as you run out there with a freaking pass-catching running back, you know it's going to be a pass. Right. I just don't get it. I don't understand the strategy behind it. And NFL coaches they cease to amaze me in their stupidity sometimes with like, oh, I drafted these 3 running backs. And it's like, well, yeah, let's save them for another position that's more important, like wide receiver, tight end, offensive line, instead of carrying 5 running backs and hoping some of them work. This is Bill Belichick doing all here. Like people just follow Bill Belichick as he goes through. He started the running back by committee years ago.
And now it just is what it is.
Yeah, so ruining fantasy one day at a time. David Montgomery had 21 fantasy points. Josh Jacobs, Austin Eckler at 19 and 18 respectively. And then you had Zeke at 17. So Zeke does come back, put up some good fantasy numbers, but not a great day for him production-wise. Devin Singletary, I don't know, man. There's a person in a fantasy league that I'm in that just keeps starting Singletary week to week, RB2 for him, and keeps winning games. So whatever.
Yeah, I know. Last couple of weeks, 15, 17. I mean, he's been an RB2.
Yeah.
Kind of gross, but
don't like it. But Lat Murray, 17 points, with the news of Melvin Gordon being gone, and as well as Chase Edmonds going on IR. At this point, I don't see another running back that's going to take Latavius Murray's opportunities. No. And definitely like a similar to Samaje Perine, where he's a top 25 guy. As far as waiver wire is concerned, probably already gone. They probably already managed or owned.
What I will say about Murray though is like he's kind of gross because the offense blows, and even this week he had 17 carries. He had 2.8 yards a carry. The week before that, 2.6 yards per carry. Mm-hmm. The week before that, 3.29, and the week before that, 3.
Right.
He's averaging 3 yards a carry on the season.
That's disgusting. It's horrible.
Super disgusting.
Jonathan Taylor had 16, and that rounds out the top productive guys. I feel like there's no running backs that scored fantasy points this week. Nick Chubb had 9 points. He kind of busted out. Not scoring a touchdown really hurts the Cleveland running backs who had 7 and 9. And I don't know if either one of them scored a touchdown, but not having that production really does hurt. Dalvin Cook was 7, so Rick, you had to suffer through that bad performance.
Yeah, we'll get to some other guys, but the whole Vikings got destroyed. Right. Cook was efficient. He 7 yards carry, 6 yards carry, but only 11 touches in the game.
Miles Sanders with 5 points. He should bounce back at some point for Philly. They've been kind of on a tough stretch. Almost lost to Indianapolis yesterday. Oh my God, did you watch the end of that game, that last drive?
A little bit. I had it on legit, like one of my.
They had 8 or 9 straight rushing attempts inside their own 20. They were trying to like run clock, and I was sitting there, and I'm like, you guys have to score a touchdown at some point to win the game.
Who, the Colts?
No, the
Eagles.
The Eagles had the ball at the end of the game, and they were trying to score a touchdown to win, and they got inside the 20, and they were like, no, we're just going to try to run the clock out. So that's what they did. And they literally got to like 3rd and 7, and they were still running it. And I was like, well, third and goal with 7 yards to go. And they needed to win the game, and they hadn't attempted a pass once to score a touchdown. And so then I'm like, what are they doing? Like, why are they?
Side note.
And then he designed QB run for a touchdown, easy touchdown, walk in. And I was like, they were saving that play, and they knew it, and they just sat there and milked it.
Probably.
So Miles Sanders will
Side
be fine,
note, Nick Sirianni, is that his name? The coach for the Eagles?
Yep.
What a freaking clown that guy is.
Oh my God, he's a joke, isn't he?
Did you see him at the end of the game?
Yes, I did.
So you're a basketball guy, so you've seen the video of Patrick Beverley last year, right? With the Timberwolves, when they won like the playing game, and he took his jersey off and was crying, and like went to the stands and
what a clown.
They compared those two, and it's actually so funny. It looked kind of similar. But yeah, Nick Sirianni, what a freaking clown that guy is.
He's a joke. Dude.
My gosh. He's celebrating that like he just beat the undefeated Patriots in 2007 for the Super Bowl. Yeah. Like, put your pants back on. You just beat the freaking Colts.
Yeah, the Colts who are 4-6-1 on the season. Like, you freaking Sally. Golly. The Eagles are stupid.
Yeah, I don't like they're such tool bags.
Honestly,
the players aren't tool bags, but
some of them are. Some of the defensive guys.
Yeah, so
anyway. Saquon Barkley had 5, so he disappointed. He should be fine rest of the season. Rick got 3.7 out of Dameon Pierce.
A little concerning for me with that.
Yeah, Houston's kind of falling apart here.
That team is just especially on offense, dude. That team is just like it hurts my soul having
I was
to watch
looking at Davis Mills' numbers, and I was like, oh. And then you watch a game and you're like, oh.
Right.
That's pretty bad.
Right. And I mean, he doesn't have like a ton around him, but yeah. I mean, he was also like a 3rd-round pick.
Yeah. I mean, the
11 touchdowns, 11 interceptions.
There wasn't a ton of investment, so it's like if they want to dump.
This is year 2, like yeah.
And if they're this bad, like, would you rather go with Davis Mills and see what you have in him, or would you draft Bryce Young or C.J. Stroud?
Oh gosh, they will draft.
I would say like you need to draft a quarterback. So
yeah,
Donta Foreman had 2 points, disappointing. If you have him, and then you have Hendo,
sacks,
Hendo and Clyde, still below. And
AJ well, I'll say quickly about Clyde. In his defense, he actually was getting work in this game, and then he got injured.
Oh yeah, I did see him have a couple rushes. I didn't watch that game in full. I went to bed because I was tired.
Bro, you miss the Chargers Chiefs games are always probably my favorite games of the year.
I literally was watching it and I'm like, Rick has waited for this moment. I was like, he's gonna tweet 100 times about this game, and then I'm gonna miss something good, and he's gonna text me at like freaking 1 a.m.
Yep.
And be like, "Did you see that kick?" And he did.
Yeah, it's very true.
So I was like, I should just stay up and watch it, but I was so freaking tired from the day.
I mean, that's fair. That's fair. That was my favorite game of the week, though. Chargers Chiefs.
It sounded like it was. Really good.
But yeah, Clyde
that's like a freaking old man thing to do.
I know. Well, Clyde had the first. I think Pacheco had a carry or two, and then they went right to Clyde, and he had 2 straight carries, and then he got hurt on the second carry. So,
of course. All right, let's talk about wide receivers, though, and get this thing cruising. Devontae Adams, 33 fantasy points. Has a huge game. He's been great.
We told you to buy him when he had 1 point.
Right. So, and then Amari Cooper with 31. I'm curious where I'm just going to look at it really quickly here for PPR leagues. Amari Cooper on the season is wide receiver 10. So,
yeah.
When Deshaun Watson gets back, I mean, I think he could be a guy that holds right around, like, he could be a Mike Evans type wide receiver in fantasy football if it kind of works out. But I was surprised by the amount of production because he was a definite bust for me going to the Browns, who don't have a quarterback for most of the season.
Right, me too. I was out. I mean, I thought he'd have a couple big weeks, but for the most part, wouldn't live up to where you drafted him. But he has, and even more.
Josh Palmer, 30 fantasy points. Boomer bust type play, especially if Mike Williams or Keenan Allen are out. And Mike Williams got hurt and Keenan Allen was limited. So Palmer putting up a good performance. But I think as soon as these two are healthy and back, like Palmer has no fantasy value.
After the game, Keenan Allen said that he feels great and he's not going to be limited going forward.
Good.
So
good for him. T. Higgins, 23 fantasy points. Demarcus Robinson, Baltimore wide receiver, 21 fantasy points. At this point, we just don't know with Baltimore who's going to be the wide receiver that ends up having a good week.
I know. At this point,
it was Rashad Bateman, but he's dead and he's hurt.
Out for the year.
Yeah. So Chris Olave with 21, Christian Watson with 21, Wan'Dale Robinson 19, George Pickens at 18, and Treylon Burks at 18. All of these guys rooks. Wan'Dale did get hurt, ACL injury, but Rick kindly asked me in the last program to rank these 4 wide receivers. I said Chris Olave, or when we recorded it and it didn't record. I'll say that.
Yeah.
So
rank him rest of the season.
I told him Chris Olave, George Pickens, Christian Watson, and then Treylon Burks as my rank.
And that's the same with me. So,
yeah, there you go. Like those guys. I think Christian Watson and George Pickens are like a toss-up, but Pickens is great the rest of the season. I like him rest of the season, and I like Olave.
Yeah.
I'm curious, like, Christian Watson, he had a really good game. He had 21 fantasy points, so, like, we were talking about trying to trade for him on our trade target show that came out on Saturday, and, like, we want, like, that's a good idea to trade for Christian Watson because I think there's a second-half breakout, but Green Bay right now is dead in the water. Like, they lost the game on Thursday night, and at this point, I don't know how much opportunity they would have to win out to even have a shot at the playoffs at this point. And do I think Green Bay can do it? Yes. And if that does start happening, then but if they start losing, like, do you just dump the season and like what does Rodgers do? Does he stop caring? Like I just don't know what happens.
Yeah, I don't know.
You would hope that, like, based on these two performances, that Christian Watson starts getting more target share than 5 a game. You know what I mean? If that starts happening, then I think Christian Watson is definitely the second half breakout that Amon-Ra was last year. And I just don't know if it happens because Rodgers is so freaking all over the road with everything. So I don't know what to do with him. But I like Olave, huge rest of the season. And I think George Pickens is good too. And Watson should be fine. I'm curious to see what Treylon Burks does, by the way, rest of the season. Peoples-Jones, 17 fantasy points. Amon-Ra, 12. And then Diggs with 14. Allen Robinson with 14.
Bad game for Diggs.
Yeah,
which is crazy.
He's
14.
Bad game for Diggs, but he had 14. A.J. Brown busted with 9. It's not really a hardcore bust. Like, it didn't really kill you, but he's had 2 bad games in a row, so hopefully he can bounce back. Drake London was 7. Justin Jefferson had 6 in that calamity that was the Minnesota Vikings football game.
Mm-hmm.
The
Vikings receivers, Daleen too, only had 5.
Mm-hmm. Deontay Johnson had 6 as well. DJ Moore, there's your guy, Rick.
Yeah, I went on a rant about him last time. Basically, I mean, at this point, if you're starting him, you're already screwed. But he shouldn't be in your starting lineups. And if you have a good team, you should drop him.
Yep, agreed. Garrett Wilson has 3 this week. Disappointing.
Boomer bust player.
All right, let's talk about some tight ends really quickly. And Travis Kelce being the wide receiver 1, tight end 1, everything 1 in all of fantasy football every day. He's ridiculous. And I don't know if it'll continue into next year, but Rick and I talked on the last show or the unrecorded show and said that Travis Kelce and Derrick Henry being the running back 1 and tight end 1 here is just absurd after Rick and I were kind of like trying to hesitate ourselves and be like, hey, these guys,
they're kind of old.
They're old. They might, but no, they keep running. Like the Energizer Bunny.
So what we said was this offseason, we're going to be all in on Kelce and Henry. So that way they suck. And then it's success for us because we don't have either guy.
Yeah. So Travis Kelce, really good. 3 touchdowns, 35 fantasy points. He's been essentially like a wide receiver, like the wide receiver 2 overall on the season. He was
in the offseason
pick.
Which, by the way, if I still had this, because you're in this dynasty league, if I still had this, it wouldn't even be a contest.
Yeah.
But and my team is still undefeated. By the way, I just want to say that this team is undefeated. But I had Travis Kelce, and I traded him away for Kyle Pitts, and dynasty, thinking that was a good deal long term.
No.
Well, who knows? Maybe Kelsey will be
long term
45 years old.
That's a good deal.
With 15 touchdowns in the season.
Yeah, that's disappointing. Hoop, there it is. Austin Hooper.
Hoop, there it is.
19 fantasy points coming out of nowhere.
Yep.
Freiermuth had 15. He's a great rest of season get at the tight end position. Dawson Knox had 14 fantasy points, so he comes out of the woodwork. Jawan Johnson, 13.
Who's the tight end 7 now, by the way?
Rick keeps ranking him low. We thought Trotman was going to be a guy, but he's not even close to it.
I know. Well, I had the team right.
Yeah, we had
for
the team
potential
right.
breakout.
Yeah. Mark Andrews had 12. Logan Thomas had 11. After that, it was kind of just a hodgepodge of suck. Johnny Smith, Tyler Higbee, TJ Hawkinson, Harrison Bryant, all with 8. And then after that, Pitts did have a decent day, but he is now out. Scheduled. He is now out for the season with an ACL.
Yeah,
injury.
Pitts had 7 points in the second quarter, so it looked like he was on his way to having
a big
one of those good games. And then, down.
Cole Kmet busted out a little bit for you if you picked him up. 6 points. I think
Dalton Schultz.
Dalton Schultz did bust. I was trying to find another tight end.
Njoku, maybe if you started him. He was really good before his injury this week. He was kind of limited, though. He only played 30% of the snaps. But people might have started him.
Like, people were all sweaty about Isaiah Likely.
Well, that was dumb because that was only because Mark Andrews was injured.
Y'all are a bunch of morons.
Mark Andrews comes back. Likely's out of the picture.
Yeah. All right, let's move to the waiver wire portion of our show, get this thing wrapped up, and get you ready for Thanksgiving on the next program.
Okay.
Let's start with the quarterback position. Same as always, Rick. Give me a guy that you would pick up rest of season and give me a streamer.
Well, I think at this point, it has to be, we've been talking about him for a couple weeks now.
Yeah, we can make this a joint
Watson.
One. It's Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, that's the joint one. I think that's easy. He's been available in still a lot of leagues, so he should be picked up because I wouldn't start him right away, although he's playing Houston, so maybe I would. But there's a chance he could go out and just light the league on fire, or he could absolutely suck and be really rusty. But having him on your team, on your bench, and having that option could really help, especially if you need a quarterback. In terms of streaming now, gosh, it's really gross, dude. This list is so gross. I'm looking at a couple lists here. So Tannehill has the Bengals, isn't that bad. And Matt Ryan has the Steelers, which isn't that bad. Which look like they're the two best options out there. I'd probably say Tannehill against the Bengals. The Bengals defense is decent, but not great. And Tannehill's been pretty good the last couple of weeks. Yeah.
I hate to do it. Because I would say Deshaun Watson as well. Like, if you desperately need a quarterback.
I don't think he's playing this week.
Yeah,
unless
he's
you
not
mean just
playing
pick
this
him up.
week. I just in general pick him up. I was gonna say, like, if you need a quarterback desperately, like dump all your waiver budget on Deshaun Watson and hope he's good. I even think that he might be, if somebody held him all this time, he might be an okay like trade target if you're desperate at quarterback.
Yeah, especially if that team already has a quarterback in there.
Right, because if he comes in and he's the same guy he was with Houston, or even like a slightly less version of that, he's like a top 7-8 fantasy quarterback. So obviously I don't think he's going to start out as that, but if you need a quarterback, like that's the way to go. And you still haven't figured that position out. I would say I don't know what his matchup looks like this week. I'm pulling it up now. It's good. Marcus Mariota. He has had some really good fantasy weeks right now. He's QB9 on the season. He has Washington and Pittsburgh and New Orleans, Baltimore, and Arizona. So like a rest of season schedule at this point looks good for Marcus Mariota. And if you need some streams, like you can kind of just grab this guy and hold him for the next couple. So I like Mariota against Washington though.
Chase Young will be coming back this week. Does that hurt?
I don't. Based on the way he gets fantasy points, I don't think so.
That's true. You want to start Taylor Heineke against Atlanta?
That's not a bad matchup. It scares the hell out of me.
Last 2 weeks, he has 7 and 6 fantasy points.
Yeah. Wacky, dude. Let's talk about some running backs. So I think I would say the two main guys on the week for me are probably Lat Murray and Samaje Perine. Oh. Latavius Murray is not very good, and neither is Denver's running game. But today they cut, or on Monday they cut Melvin Gordon, and they put Chase Edmonds on IR, as we said earlier. So Latavius Murray now becomes basically the only running back in the backfield. And this is similar to the Donta Foreman situation where Christian McCaffrey gets traded to the 49ers, and it opens up the backfield for Carolina. This is kind of the situation for Latavius Murray, where he's not very good. The situation in Denver is not really good offensively, and there's not really going to be like super high caliber performances for him on the season, but he can kind of plod along and get you some fantasy points when you need them, if you need a flex play or a replacement play for bye weeks. So I would try to add Latavius Murray, but I'm not spending too much money on him. And then as far as Samaje Perine, if Joe Mixon is hurt, Perine is like a pretty decent pickup. I think he could give you like low-end RB2 numbers on a week-to-week basis, around like 10 fantasy points. So I think he would be a good add this week too.
Yeah, I think, gosh, those are the only two guys to me that have any.
I know. You can talk about
fantasy relevant.
Give your thoughts on them.
I would have said probably Latavius Murray too, because even though he has sucked, he's going to get a majority of that work, probably all of it. Right. And he has a good matchup this week against Carolina, so maybe he could put up some fantasy points. But even like Samaje Perine, if Mixon comes back and is fine, then he's back to what he was. I will say I'm not telling you that he's a great ad, because that backfield is so so filled with guys, and Singletary is clearly the guy. But James Cook has started to look better. Had a really good game this week at 7 yards a carry. Only had 11 touches though, and 8 fantasy points. So it's not like he's putting up fantasy numbers. He hasn't had double-digit fancy points at all this season.
There.
What is it?
I said you could see some kind of breakthrough there.
I don't. I mean, I think so, but at the same time, they traded for Nyheim Hines for no reason at all, because they don't even use him. I don't know why they did that, but because they did that, they have 3 running backs that they use. So it's kind of gross. Or they really don't even use Nyheim Hines. He had 1 touch this week.
Yeah,
which is still one of the stupidest trades ever. But yeah, Cook could have a role. We'll see. And he's playing Detroit, so maybe he has a breakout game on Thanksgiving.
The other guy I was going to say too is Mike Boone, another Denver running back.
Sure.
Like he's going to be involved. So if you want to, if you don't get Latavius Murray, you can try to add Boone in hopes that maybe he ends up being productive. But I was going to say, unless you had anything else on James Cook.
No.
Okay. I was going to say this is a good week to start looking into picking up handcuffs. And if Madison's available, like he's a great handcuff for Dalvin Cook. Isaiah Spiller, really backup running back for the Chargers. He's a good pickup in replacement of Austin Eckler if he gets hurt down the stretch. So you want to pick up these handcuff guys. Jaylen Warren, Pittsburgh, backup running back for Najee Harris. I don't think that would look very sexy. It would be very gross, but not like he's going to be free, so it's not worth it. It's not worth picking him up.
Yeah, he would be a good pickup though, because if Harris were to if you have Najee, because if Najee were to go down, Harris would get. I mean, Jaylen Warren would get the full work.
Yeah. So just make sure you check your waiver wire for some high end handcuffs and see if you can get guys. Some people just hold like. In our league, it's kind of sickening, to be honest with you, that people do this unless they have like. Kind of is. But like Alexander Madison in one of our leagues, he's been held all season long.
And you know what's funny? I have Dalvin Cook in that league, and I sent a trade offer for Madison, and he declined it instantly. Like he's like, he has to hold on to Alexander Madison.
Like
he doesn't even have Dalvin Cook.
I don't get it.
He's going to rot on his bench.
Somebody has Jalen Hurts, and they're holding Deshaun Watson on their IR. And like, I'm like, are you on drugs? Like, what are we doing here? Anyway.
It's a good backup in case he gets hit.
All right, Rick. I think we both would have the same number one wide receiver pickup, but give me a guy.
Okay. I don't know if we would, bro.
All right, go ahead. Give me the one.
But Peoples Jones is my number one pickup. If he's available in your league.
No.
He should be at...
You know better than this.
To be totally honest with you, no. I like Peoples Jones, but I don't think anyone on this list...
To hell you like Peoples Jones.
No, bro. So Michael Florio tweeted out, there's only one player to have at least 50 yards in 7 games since week 4. Yeah. So in every game since week 4, there's only one player in the whole NFL to have 50 yards, and it's Donovan Peoples Jones. The man's been consistent, and he's about to get Deshaun Watson that could elevate that offense to even another level. Uh-huh. And he's the number 2 receiver on that team. So I think he has fantasy relevance. He's already been a good flex with Jacoby Brissett. Mm-hmm. Deshaun Watson comes in there. Who knows? That being said, I'm not telling you he's this elite player, and I am trying to trade him in a league that I have. So,
no, he's not a bad pickup because I think he's a good replacement of flex-worthy play. But I don't see him having he doesn't have any high-end upside. So
no, he's not going to get you 20 points.
And who knows? Maybe when Watson comes in, that could change. He might have a repertoire with, what's his name, Jacoby Brissett, and then he could just completely disappear under Watson. But he's a good field stretcher. He's fast, so. Maybe they make more down the field throws with Deshaun Watson. We'll see. I was gonna say Treylon Burks, because Robert Woods is trash, and I love you, Robert Woods. I take that. It's harsh, but you're not any good anymore. But Treylon Burks, he's the future. They want him to be AJ Brown, and so. I think they're gonna try to get he's healthy now, so they're gonna try to get him the ball as much as humanly possible, force feed it to him, and I would put a healthy amount of waiver budget on him because these rookie wide receivers at this point in the game, in week 11, 12, 13, this is when they start to take a turn and they start to produce at a higher level, and so where they start figuring things out and putting it together. This is where I keep bringing up Amon-Ra, but Amon-Ra broke out in the second half of last year. So this is where you're going to see some guys where we're going to talk about through the offseason being like, oh, look at this guy. He's going to be really good. And Treylon Burks, Christian Watson's one of those guys. Treylon Burks, I think, could be one of those guys because there's no one else really in competition for the target share in Tennessee. He could get a heavy target share, and I think he can produce with it because he's really good. So I would pick him up. Paris Campbell should be rostered and owned. As long as Matt Ryan's the quarterback, I think he's going to get target share and he's going to be good.
There's actually 2 guys I want to quickly mention. Number 1, Odell Beckham Jr. If he goes to the Cowboys, it's okay. But if he goes to the Giants with Wan'Dale Robinson going out, he might get 10 targets a week, and it's all of a sudden
it sounds like he's going to Dallas.
Yeah, it does sound like he's going to Dallas.
The Giants are like a cute little I'll go visit and say hi to everyone, and then actually sign with it's
if he wants to win.
Imagine that he goes and visits the Giants and goes, "It was fun, guys, but I'm going to the other NFC's team that's better than you."
The team you're directly competing with. I think he's probably going to go to the Cowboys, and he still has some fantasy relevance there, but I actually think he might have more if he went to the Giants.
Yeah.
Because he's like I said, he's the only receiver there. Without him, I don't know what they're going to do. But keep an eye on Odell. I think you should still pick him up on the Cowboys. And then Jameson Williams, who I've been saying since week 5, finally is coming back. I don't know if he's coming back this week because it's a short week, but he's practicing for the first time this week, and they took him off IR. So we could see the return of Jay Will, or not the return, I guess the debut. And I would stash him. It might be too late at this point in the season because, you would have to be really desperate, I guess, to plug him in right away. But I think he's a guy who could sneakily get a couple big games during playoff season.
I want to see him play.
But you pick him up now,
I'm excited,
and he goes off week 13, week 14.
I've waited.
You got him for the playoffs.
This guy is fast. He's almost Tyreek Hill fast. And I want to see that. I want to see it in the NFL. I'm excited. All right, let's talk about some tight ends. You give me one tight end. We don't have to. No, give me a tight end that you would play, and I'll give you another one.
Okay. My arch nemesis, who's only owned in 24% of leagues, is Juwan Johnson, and every single week the last 4 weeks, last 4 weeks, I think he has a touchdown.
Yeah.
So he's been a beast. He's the tight end 7 on the season. He should be rostered, and as crappy as it says, he should be in your starting lineup.
I do continue to like Evan Engram for Jacksonville.
Mm-hmm.
And I would imagine like he hasn't been like good enough that somebody would like hold him on their roster during a bye week. So I would imagine that maybe somebody dropped him during the bye and you can pick him up, but he's only rostered in 37% of the league. So I would take Evan Engram, pick him up off the waiver wire. I also am interested in Foster Moreau without Darren Waller there, but he didn't perform too well this week without Darren Waller. So I don't know what the ceiling is, but I would roster him and just see like if something connects at some point, you might have a tight end there, but
yeah, we are pre-recording this, so I don't know how good he did, but Trey McBride's someone I would keep an eye on as well.
Yeah.
And if he had a good week, you could maybe hop on that train.
Definitely. Any other thoughts on the waiver wire?
No, I think that's it.
All right, there you go. We are cruising towards the end of the fantasy football regular season. It is going to be extremely interesting as we approach the end. Don't forget to check out our website, follow us on Twitter and Instagram. We got a lot more content this week. Thursday is Thanksgiving. See you later, guys.
See you.
Thank you for listening to the Fantasy Champions Podcast. Make sure you subscribe on iTunes and YouTube and follow us on Twitter @TheFFChamps.